Hello, everybody. I'm Brant Hulsebus, and welcome to another edition of the ICA Sports and Fitness Science Council podcast on behalf of the ICA's Chirocast. Those of you know the Chirocast is the ICA's podcast, and this podcast is part of the Sports and Fitness Science Council. As many of you know, the ICA has several councils, and we, as part of the Sports and Fitness Science Council, have been putting podcasts up now for 18 months. So with that being said, 18 months long, I figured it's time to take a time out and discuss what the ICA Sports and Fitness Council has accomplished as it's become revitalized, what we've done, and where we're going, more importantly. Like, it's great to look backwards, but let's look forward. And so if I'm going to do this, I had to bring on Dr. Todd McDougle, the chairman of our board, the guy that makes sure that we actually have meetings scheduled, and we try to hit at least half of our topics each meeting. So Dr. McDougle, welcome.
Thanks, Brant, and thanks for everything that you've done. You've been amazing. Quite honestly, there's so many videos that you're putting out, and we would not be doing this even today without you. And so, thank you so much.
So you want to tell us a little bit let's say I've never watched an ICA Sports and Fitness Science podcast before. You want to tell us a little bit about who the Sports and Fitness podcast is, or maybe not the podcast, excuse me, but our actual council. You want to tell a little bit about who we are and what our goals are?
I kind of got myself a little prepared, so I will read it directly. Okay, so it really is about what we're attempting to achieve, and so in order not to mess it up, I'm just going to read it. Okay, our goals
No
include,
problem.
but are not limited to, offering opportunities for sports-minded chiropractors to have a fellowship with their colleagues. The perpetuation of chiropractic itself must aid in the development of skills that focus on specific and proper adjusting methods tailored to be sport specific while reducing injury to the chiropractor doing the execution of care. Creation of a unique learning environment to ensure that DCs can successfully engage both athlete and care team members as they share the amazing experiences of positive outcomes that become evident in the achievement of the athlete's dreams. Combined, these three will aid in the formation of a deep foundation of principles matched with confidence and competency. And so this is, to a great degree, why this council exists.
Well, Dr. Jackson, who's also on our council, him and I talk all the time about what a great avenue to expose chiropractic care to the masses, but through sports. And a couple of months ago, I got the opportunity to interview Dr. Nick Athens. And I know that's the first time my father, he was a practicing chiropractor, got to see a live chiropractic adjustment on TV. And it wasn't a science show. It wasn't anything like that. It was I believe it was a Super Bowl when Joe Montana got his neck adjusted by Dr. Athens live on national TV. My father said the next week everyone was asking him about that. It was like a huge deal. And so what a great avenue for us to present the world to chiropractic, correct?
Absolutely. And the big thing is that we want to start this off with purpose. I mean, right now, fortunately, compared to what it used to be with Dr. Athens, sports chiropractic is now everywhere. But the big thing that I think we're missing is we're missing some clarity, we're missing some consistency, and believe it or not, a little bit of identity. And so, the one thing that we need to try and do with the Sports Council is create a unified philosophy for sports chiropractic doctors. We want to also, at the same time, do what we can to define some clinical standards. And of course, we also, at the same time, for those younger doctors that want to get involved, we want to try and create a clear professional pathway. We exist, the ICA Council and Fitness and Sports Health Science exists to restore some coherence to sports chiropractic, clinically, philosophically, that is, and professionally. And of course, I think it's important to, really address the fact that a lot of doctors are working with these athletes, but very few systems exist to train them correctly, support them long term, and give them professional home. And really, for the most part, that's the gap that we're in process of filling.
I take care of the AHL hockey team here in Rockford for the Chicago Blackhawks. And it was interesting because when they joined our team 20 some years ago, I was already here working with the team before they began the AHL affiliation. And we had several of our hockey players get called up to Chicago to play for the Blackhawks. And they didn't have a team chiropractor then. And the guys were mad. They're like, how do we have a chiropractor in the AHL but not the NHL? Now I enjoyed it because they came down to see me and they brought some of the superstars from Chicago to come see me. So I was okay with it. But they in the locker room they wanted more than that. And they hired a chiropractor because he had all these credentials behind his name. All this, I have all these letters behind my name. I got to be this great chiropractor. And they found out that they fired him immediately because he could not talk to or work with the other healthcare team. So I think when we talk about creating a sports chiropractor, it's so much more than just more. I mean, the techniques and the special considerations with athletes is one thing, but just understanding the environment, correct? Because we've all come from
Yeah.
different sports backgrounds, and the environment is so important. I don't think so many chiropractors don't know that.
Well, and I think that, we are trying to create that avenue so that these young doctors can come and attend, and we're trying to figure out other ways to reach out, and try to become that mentor. But, we've got some things already in motion. We're not just in the idea phases of it. Right now we're actively executing things, and we're planning, the 2026, 2027, this whole year and next year to develop what it is that we're, our end game is a 2027 national symposium, or a what do we call it, symposium, or a, help me, Brant.
Kind of like a one-stop shop. Like I want to become a sports chiropractor. I want to get a little sample of how to work with the athletes, how to work with the teams, and then
Hmm.
things I want to learn. Why adjusting somebody who's about to lift heavy weights versus somebody who's about to just had a head injury. What these are two awesome things that chiropractic can do, but how could I do it the best for my athlete's advantage?
Yeah, and the term I
And
was looking for was summit.
there
So,
you go,
a
summit.
symposium or a summit to go ahead and do exactly what you're talking about, to where we go ahead and get into what you're just mentioning, which is the clinical depth, the hands-on mastery. And of course, what we want to go ahead and focus on too is professional development. So this year, 2026 is going to be our promotional event. We're not going to try and do this 6 months out or 6 weeks out. We're doing it now. And so it is slow. And granted, like you said, for the last 18 months or so, we've been doing things like the podcast, but behind the scenes, I mean, it's been more than that. It's been, a core group really, really focused on trying to, do what needs to be done. And so I guess if you want to go ahead and anchor it down, we're building this the right way: slow, strategic, and strong.
Right now, we've actually, so a couple of you on the board have actually been going around teaching some stuff for our athletes. I'm going to highlight two of you. One of them you know really well, and that's yourself. You've been going around teaching some stuff, and then our good friend Dr. Kevin Jackson. So, why don't you tell a little bit about the course that you've put together that's going to be part of the overall summit that we're going to do? So, you want to give us a little, you and I are old enough to remember Cliff Notes. Do you want to give us a little Cliff Note version, a little synopsis of what things your research and your studies have been doing and what you've been educating sports chiropractors on?
Well, as crazy as it seems, back in the mid 90s, there were some changes that were made in athletics. And that came about the same time as we started seeing a lot more of the collegiate education program with the exercise physiology, right? So a lot of research oriented things were put out there, even after, Stuart McGill's stuff. Stuart McGill was actually big in learning how to, work with back pain, develop, parameters to go ahead and help with back pain. And so, it's interesting during the 70s, 80s, and into the early 90s, how much more knowledge and information is put together. Well, when I graduated in 1997 from Palmer College of Chiropractic, the sports thing really wasn't as big a deal as it is today, right? The CCSP and all that other kind of stuff. So a lot of what I had to do is really learn OJT, right, on job training. And so the information was fairly new information. You're going to look at some of the stuff from the mid 90s. But for me, I was asked, how I could go ahead and deliver an adjustment for strength athletes without creating an environment in which they would lose power and strength. Obviously the side posture application is something that is a staple within the chiropractic profession. It has worked so well that now we have athletic trainers and massage therapists and physical therapists and your brother's uncle, whatever, trying to do, the side posture. So we know that that's okay, but the question is that appropriate for certain athletes at certain times. And so for me, there was a lot of, on the ground training, trying to figure out how to circumvent causing a response that would cause the athlete to lose that power and strength. And so I had to go ahead and rely on some of the things that were already going on prior to my graduation. Like I said, the mid 90s, where they were talking about, stretch receptors. They were talking about Hoffman's reflex. Hoffman's reflex actually goes all the way back to 1910. And of course, it has to do with static and ballistic stretching and what the effects are on neuromuscular recruitment afterwards. And so for me, working with strength athletes and being, questioned and asked to go ahead and provide some answers, I actually would experiment with the athletes in the gym on these portable tables, and have come up with my own strategic application, which bypasses it using a drop mechanism rather than the traditional side posture. That way I don't negatively affect and recruit all kinds of other stretch receptors, whether it be in the muscles, the tendons, the ligaments. You're looking at, the reactivity of, not just stretch receptors, but also the pressure receptors in the discs themselves, the joint capsules, how many joints are involved, how many muscular components are involved when we go ahead and we add in a side posture application. So I kind of come up with the term short lever high velocity burst adjustment to go ahead and bypass, and yet at the same time reorganize neurologically what was supposed to happen with the chiropractic adjustment, to reboot it but not reset it in such a way that the athlete has to wait anywhere from 15 to 72 hours prior to an event for their body to go ahead and reset. You know what I mean? So for me, developing that and then getting it to the point of experimentation with almost 30 years of work within the strength community, and not working on, just local people, but I mean, I've been fortunate to work, as the lead doctor for, World's Strongest Man, official strongman games, the Arnold Classic, the Arnold Strongman Classic, and, just recently last year for the Strongman Champions League. So I'm doing all the big events and the most notable programs, but so far to date, I've worked with athletes that have participated in literally every known strongman organization on the planet that has ever existed. And so I guess that's the thing, as far as credibility is concerned, I think I have it. There are a lot of people that you'll see on Instagram and whatnot that will make all kinds of claims, but my shoes are pretty worn out. Okay, so I've actually walked the walk. My tables are wore out. You've seen them, and we got signatures all over those things as well. Which, this all fits into what it is that we're trying to achieve. Because I haven't separated myself from the fact that the subluxation foundation does exist, and when we're trying to bring this into these 5 core pillars as far as what we're trying to do in defining true sports chiropractic, the subluxation-based foundation, it doesn't disappear when sports get involved. We also, at the same time, want to focus on the heart and the heart of the art and science of adjusting, not just rehab protocols. You talked about Kevin just a little bit. His focus is going to be the subconcussive impact management, which almost no one is teaching or teaching correctly. And of course, with me, the strength athlete, but also extremity care. It's amazing how many people don't see the value of extremities. And these applications are grounded in real world sports demanding environments. And then, of course, then we also want to address the business and professional pathway so that doctors, like, to your point earlier, how they actually can get access to teams and stay involved and not make silly mistakes that could be problematic. What we offer is a certificate program, and it's all based upon competent clinicians like myself, not just a checkbox of acronyms and letters that that so many people acquire and still don't have the skills or the application ability. We're really in this organization trying to create chiropractic mastery.
Yeah, and I'm gonna talk about Dr. Jackson too. He's not here. I think I was told you're not supposed to talk about somebody listed in the room, but I think if you're complimenting him, it's okay. Dr. Jackson's worked with the subconcussive stuff's incredible. A lot of head injuries aren't a full concussion. A lot of head injuries don't silence somebody, but they add up over time. And he's actually come up with a way for you to safely, quickly, and effectively do a upper cervical evaluation on the sideline with strong objective evidence, and then how to deliver a chiropractic adjustment to the C1 if you suspect this is the situation with a low force instrument, because you don't have all your tools. You don't have your x-rays, and you're on the sideline. You don't want to do something that's going to scare people. But we know how important it is whenever there's any type of head injury to check that atlas as fast as you can. He's actually come up with a safe, effective way of doing this. And then, myself, I'll talk about myself, even though you're told you're not supposed to. I've worked with, I'm in a city called Rockford, Illinois. We're not part of the Chicago suburb area. We're outside of that. But we're about 2 hours away from Chicago, about, an hour south of Madison, an hour, 40 minutes away from Milwaukee. And we have about 250,000 people in our town. So we don't have an NFL team. We don't have an NHL team, but we have the minor leagues of everything. And for those of you watching, I've had so many people call me, hey, I want to be the chiropractor for the White Sox. I'm like, well, that's cool. But Brian Allen's already doing that, and he really likes his job, and they like him. They're probably not going to let him go. But there's new minor league teams in your community all the time. I even take care of the local colleges. And I want to teach you how to not only work with the other doctors and be in that environment, but what should you be compensated? How do you get paid for doing these things? These are important things that
Yeah.
when I walked into this, I had no idea. So I've worked with collegiate wooden bat leagues, semi-pro baseball. I have all different things, and you have to have realistic expectations across the board. And that's part of the complete package we're hoping to teach you. Not only how to work with the athletes, how to work with the medical team that's there, how to have realistic expectations. Like Dr. McDougle talked about his technique. I adjust the players differently I do before the game than I do after the game, knowing that they have time to heal afterwards. So those are the big things we're trying to hit. We want you to walk out of our symposium or summit being a better, ready to go and knock on a team door and say, hey, I want to be your team chiropractor.
Yeah. And I think that's, a big piece of it too, because one of the focuses that we have is not just the people who are already out. I think a lot of people are already entrenched with a lot of what they think they know, but students matter a lot. And so and this is why we're wanting to go to them directly. We want to go ahead and try and reach out to, chiropractic students that are hungry for real sports exposure. We really feel like for the most part, they're being sold a lot of hype. Just because you've got a degree, an additional degree that they've sold you at the chiropractic college and they call it a master's degree or whatever, it doesn't mean that you're ready. It means that you've got some more knowledge, which is fine. And a lot of that knowledge may help you, graduate with your CCSP. But at the end of the day, so many people will go ahead and acquire certification and they'll never ever be on the field, the athletic field. And we want to try and help with that. So in essence, what I'm saying is we're trying to give pathways, not just information, but pathways. So, we would like to meet you guys, you students that are listening. We want to meet you before you graduate, before you become frustrated. And you will get frustrated. Practice itself will be frustrating. The information that will come to light, with insurance billing and things along those lines will become frustrating for you. The goals and the ideas that you have and the ease of those goals as far as achievement, you're going to be frustrated with that process too. It takes time. It takes time to gain good skills also so that you are able to communicate what it is you can do to benefit not only regular patients but maybe an athletic team. And so these are the things that we want to go ahead and try and assist you, the student, with. And that's why, we're going to our student ICA chapters and, not just, any place. There are certain schools that may not be quite friendly to the ICA for whatever reason, but I think it's because, we've been told that the subluxation doesn't exist, I guess, which really kind of bothers me. So we are going to be targeting colleges that still believe in the concept of the subluxation. And for me, even more importantly, the subluxation complex, because it is something that, you have fixations, you have subluxations, and you have articular, deviations that are important for things like radiographic analysis to go ahead and do deep dive. And that's where we go ahead and tie in the PCCRP guidelines that so many young doctors have no idea that those things even exist that would justify the need for radiographic analysis on your athletes. So, we as a whole, we don't want you to wait 10 years to figure this stuff out, guys. We want to walk with you from the start. And I think that's one of the biggest things that makes this council very different.
Yeah, we've already been through all that stuff, and we'd like to
Yeah.
just let you skip that step.
Yeah.
I know I take pre-X-rays of all my players before the season starts, and it used to be a challenge. But luckily in Illinois, we have horrible malpractice laws and stuff that's anti-physician, pro lawyers out of Chicago. So I was able to sell the owners on X-rays before the season starts. So I could prove their spines weren't perfect before the season starts, and I ruined a ton of lawsuits. So now the owners demand me X-ray everybody before the season starts, and that's what nobody taught me that. I had to learn that way to present it. So that's our goal. And students, we are subluxation based first. This isn't where I see a lot of sports-based chiropractors that don't adjust. They're great at ART. They're good at PT. They're good at taping people with the different tapes and stuff. And that's all valuable information. That's good stuff to know. But you're gonna find in the locker room, by myself, I go in there and I'm not doing ART. The massage therapist is doing it. And the massage therapist lives and travels with the team. They don't want me to do that. They only want me to do one thing and one thing only and do it really, really good. And that's find the subluxation and create the adjustment and make the correction so the player can maximize their performance. And that's what we're bringing to the table.
And I think we have to be real careful about not trying to duplicate things that are already out there. I mentioned the CCSP, and you've got your diplomate on that. We're not trying to compete with that. We're not trying to take away from that whatsoever. What we're trying to do is we're trying to build upon the skill sets that we have, that we're bringing. And in essence, what you're seeing is that we have a multifaceted, clinician-led, not influencer led, but a clinician led faculty on our education platforms so that it represents chiropractic philosophy, real athletic performance, what it is like behind the scenes, the things that you do, the things you don't do, professional boundaries. We also, at the same time, don't want to lock in anybody on any one thing. So we are going to have multi-sport involvement. We have friends that Brant has known for several years from baseball and hockey, and there are people tied in with football, rugby. MMA is becoming something more and more. Obviously, I bring strength sports to it. We're looking at bringing more and more, whether it be Olympic oriented doctors to the mix with real sideline experience. We're not hypothetical. Everything and everybody that's tied in with our organization are real world experts in each of their own prospective areas. And so one of the big things for me is to help the young doctors acquire the clinical thinking that they weren't that was not practiced within the confines of the chiropractic education system. Okay. We want you to have these skill sets that will allow you to be proficient and make good decisions rapidly, because what we offer is not theory. We really have lived it. And this is the information that makes what it is that the ICA Sports Council offers so very, very unique, and really should be very sought after by anybody who wants to be talented as a chiropractor. So many people have no idea how powerful that chiropractic adjustment is, but just like you had mentioned, people don't want you to go ahead and dry needle them, and that's fine. There's PTs and people to do that. But what they want you to do is they want you to enhance their performance through the chiropractic adjustment because they see value in it. And sadly, what I see in today's young doctors is that I don't see that they value, because they haven't seen it. They haven't seen what it is that we can do in the field of competition to supercharge an athlete immediately. so that they can go out and win a world title, for example, like we've seen with, strength sports or hockey or whatever else. I mean, we've even got, Dr. Stuckey with rodeo and PGA golf and etc. So, I mean, we've got really wildly talented individuals that are participating with this.
We know you know how to adjust. We know you come in with a certain level of education you already have. We want to teach you a half dozen new tricks and maybe when you should apply this technique versus this technique, how to do it in public in an arena that maybe you never thought about in public, and basically just teach how to put that whole package together with people who've done it all, real life experience. And like Dr. McDougle said, all different lines of sports. I mean, I don't know how Dr. Stuckey does it. He goes PGA to rodeo. I mean, talk about overuse syndrome to who knows what's going to happen to the rodeo guys.
Or a
I don't
different
know.
level of swearing also,
Yeah.
right?
I
So,
mean, I take care of professional bowlers, and you have overuse syndrome. Then I take care of hockey players, and it's not overuse; it's that we don't know what's going to happen to these guys. So it's a lot of fun to talk about the different types of sports and the things that we see and how to apply those. And I hope this everybody can join us this summer, 2027 for this big symposium and bring stuff to the table. Now, part of also what we're going to bring this symposium to is we've gone out and met with some partners that are chiropractically focused that can also bring stuff for your athletes. You want to talk a little bit about some of the, I don't want to say corporate sponsors, but some of the companies that we've screened and we've investigated work with that we have recommended some of our athletes.
yeah, we've got some really incredible affiliates right now. And of course, with that, they offer member perks. And so, one thing that we find in trade associations, regardless of type, and chiropractic is a trade association, what we're offering is also trade oriented, but we've got to try and figure out reasons to go ahead and have you join. And we know that that's a bit of a carrot. Part of what we offer is the stick, and the stick is, listen, we want to pound you to the point that you are an incredible chiropractor, but if we can also give you tools, and these tools are the carrots. So we've got perks from pro hockey and the pro baseball chiropractic societies. We've got a company called Modexus that offers whole food products that will allow the doctor to go ahead and add some nutritional components that will allow for some positive changes, whether it be trying to keep an athlete, from being sick while they're at an event, which, we see happen almost every time we have 400 athletes at official strongman games where somebody's sick and then everybody's sick. And they're flying from all over the world, right? So if we can go ahead and develop and offer products that will go ahead and offset that so that they can go ahead and offer their best performance ever, not being sick, why not, right? So
You
Modexus
know,
helps us with that.
I'm going to interject real fast on that too. I mean, when was the last time you went to Whole Foods and saw how many different thousands of companies were selling supplements and stuff?
Yeah.
And your patients are going to ask you, which one should I get? And you're willing and welcome to spend a lot of time researching them and learning them all, but we already did that.
Yeah.
That's part of the thing is we like this company. They've been to your clinic, they've been to my clinic and sat down with us. And well, I know I asked them some really, really hard questions that I've learned over the years from studying under people like Dan Murphy, and they were able to show me answers, and I was able to. So
Yeah.
we've already invented this company, so you don't have to.
Yeah, yeah. The vetting process is huge, and of course, then we have to go through different vetting processes through the ICA itself. But yeah, I mean, we've got other products. Dr. Cruz from Web Exercises. I know you use that in your clinic, and they've been a great partner for us. Stroops is a little different. Stroops actually has a wide variety of products and items that you can go ahead and either warm up or rehab your athletes before, during, or after an event. And a lot of these things may be stuff that you can put in your gym bag, for example. So we're working on developing packages for you athletes, but also specifically for you doctors to go ahead and utilize for those athletes.
Yeah, they've been really cool with stuff like even beyond what you just said, but even if you get that X-ray of that person, they don't have a cervical curve anymore. Stroop's got stuff that you can work with them to give the athletes so they can do some at-home stuff to get their posture back and restore their normal curvature of their spine. They've been really cool.
And if you want items for your clinic, I mean, bigger items. I mean, he's got a treadmill system, a treadmill cage system, which is very, very interesting. So that's what Stroops brings to it.
Dr.
Kinesio,
Jackson's got ideas that he wants stuff, and they're actually making it for him. I mean,
Yeah.
if you have a really good idea that you think could really do good, I know Dr. Jackson's going to keep him busy. I'm actually worried about our friend Joe. He's going to come up with some pretty good stuff too, I have a feeling.
Absolutely. But we also have kinesio tape, which was developed by a chiropractic doctor. It was the original kinesio tape that was developed over in Japan for chiropractic, and also for, everyone else that now you see with all the offshoots. There's all kinds of variations of kinesio tape, but what we've been able to do is partner with the original organization called Kinesio Tape. Stop Pain is a company that I actually started working with, and they were the originators of something that a lot of people are familiar with, which was a company called Biofreeze. And so it's a similar product, but a completely separate company. We also have a Vibasage unit that we're working with Dr. Stockson, who was Eddie Cohn, who is probably one of the most decorated powerlifters in the world in history. And he actually come up with this device to literally pulverize the muscle once you go ahead and you get your adjustments all knocked out. So we've got those people. We've got more. If anyone is listening who would like to participate and become an affiliate partner for the Sports Council, please reach out to us. We would like to go ahead and set something up and develop some real MOUs, if you will. So those are some of the people that we are working with. But as a whole, I mean, super excited to go ahead and say, hey, listen, you know what? We've got some really cool things that we're doing this year in 2026. And let me kind of roll this paper here a little bit forward here. Trying to make sure that I don't miss anything, Brant, because there's so many things that we are doing. And I want to be clear, I want to be excited, but at the same time grounded. 2026 Life University Extravaganza. We want to go ahead and see you guys there. It's a big thing that I think would be a great start to go ahead and meet some of us who are participating and trying to make the ICA Sports Council amazing. We also, with that, will be kind of a traveling ICA sports and fitness masterclass series. And we're looking at, having aggressive presences at different seminars and homecomings and major ICA supported events, but I can't tell you what they are because we want it to be kind of a surprise. But we
I could,
also want you to go ahead and be engaged and keep watching Brant's work that he does on the podcasts so that you can kind of, be spoon fed a little bit. We just kind of want to keep you coming back and listening and hearing more about everything that we're doing that's super exciting. So if this resonates with you, whether it be students, doctors, educators, I just want to say this council is for you.
and like you said, follow, listen to this podcast, like and subscribe, share it. You'll definitely will be announcing everything here positive for sure as they pop up. But also, we have a website, and the easiest way to find the website if you're driving, I listen to my podcast in the car while I'm driving down the road. So when some people give me a web address, I'm like, well, I'm driving my car right now. I can't write that down. So I'm going to tell you, go to the ICA website, chiropractic.org. Look at the councils. You'll find us right there. Otherwise, we do have our own website. It's if you look at the news and podcast section, you'll find all these podcasts. You'll find the video. If you're listening in your car, you always wondered what we look like. You can go there and do that. Be careful with some of our members. You might be disappointed. And the other thing is, we also write these things up. We have information. And if you become a member, there's links to our partners in there. You can get special deals only for our actual members. We'd love to have you join our council. We'd love to have you come out to our summit symposium that we're planning. Love to meet you on campus as we go to these different schools and different events, and that'll all be on the website. Love to meet you at Life Extravaganza down in Atlanta, Georgia. That'll be a good time. Just come over and ask us questions. If you have questions, please, wherever you're listening or watching this, leave a comment there. We'll see it. We'll address it. We'll answer it for sure.
Yeah.
You can always go to our website and reach out directly to us. Any of our board members are more than happy to have a conversation with anybody.
Well,
And like always, I always wrap this up by giving my speaker the floor one last time. So Dr. McDougle, the floor is yours.
well, you knew, and I knew this was coming, and we've done a few of these, you and I, right? So here's the thing. All right, let's get this core message to the students. You don't need to choose between philosophy and sports. There doesn't have to be a choice. You don't have to wait years to access us or the sports teams. will help you with that. You do not need to figure this out alone. What we're offering is early exposure to sports chiropractic done the right way by a consortium of individuals from many different athletic backgrounds. Okay? Not just one sport, multi-sport. You're going to have direct access to us, the experienced clinicians, and others as we build our group. So if you are a doctor out there that would like to participate in our group and be a part of our committee behind the scenes, we welcome you. Please reach out. We need more people. We do hands-on workshops and real conversations, not hypotheticals. No safe spaces. That's one of the things I like to toss out there when I'm doing the OSG live fire training. There are no safe spaces. We're with 400 athletes from over 52 different countries. Okay? So this is real. This isn't pretend. This is real sports chiropractic. We show you exactly how far and how far reaching the chiropractic adjustment can be. We want to go ahead and develop that clear path from student to clinician to sports provider. So the call to action is really simple and clear. What we'd like to do is we'd like to connect with the student ICA chapters, with all of us at the Sports Council. We'd like you, believe it or not, we'd like you to invite us for a lecture, a workshop. We offer Zoom series as well. And we want to help you start building your sports identity now, if that is an area of interest for you. If there's anything you didn't like as far as what I've said so far, please let me know, because I think that what I'm offering are solutions.
I got my list of stuff you said, but that's different time.
That's probably a different list.
And remember, we're the International Chiropractic Association Sports and Science Fitness Council. For those of you who don't know your history, the International Chiropractic Association was started and created by B.J. Palmer. So we're BJ's association. So of course we're going to keep that subluxation front and center. You can definitely be a subluxation-based chiropractor and still take care of athletes. You don't have to know. I have no idea how to do ART. I have no idea how to do dry needling. I have no idea how to do trigger points.
I've
I just
never
know how
had
to
to
find.
need. I've never had a need for it. Now think
No,
about that.
well, I know how to find, correct, and adjust vertebral subluxations. And with this council, I've learned when to use this technique versus that technique to make me the better chiropractor. And all that stuff carries into everyday practice. Go back and listen to the podcast story about the nurse lady I take care of. Dr. McDougle and I have discussed this several times. I'll let you go back and find in the previous podcast. But to everybody else, unless Dr. McDougle has anything else, I am ready to say thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. And we look forward to meeting you soon.
Let's do it. Let's do it soon. Sooner than later.
Thanks, everybody.